Hey everyone, I'm here with Jamie to discuss his sermon yesterday on Luke 10. And before we ask some questions, Jamie, would you mind recapping your sermon from yesterday?
Yesterday, as we looked at Luke chapter 10, verses 1 through 24, it was really a building on of what discipleship looks like and what it means to be a disciple of Christ. Last week, Murray talked about how discipleship involves a reorienting of one's life, especially in terms of our relationships with others, especially family. And this week, we looked at what it means to be a disciple in terms of one that is to be sent, that we're not just supposed to be reclusive and stay in our own corner, but how we're supposed to go out and what it looks like to engage the world in that sense.
Right, and a big part of that is being sent out is removing what hinders us. And one of the questions I would like to ask is, how should we evaluate what is hindering us based on our standing in Christ?
Yeah, well, right there, the very first of that passage is he sends the disciples out, or sends the 72 out. He tells them not to take a money bag, not to take a knapsack. In other words, don't take food with them. Do not take an extra pair of sandals with them. And as we look at those things are necessary. We need money. We need food, and we also need shoes. We need clothes to wear and things of that nature. But what he's calling us to do, I believe, is two things. Is one is reevaluating how we use the things that God has given to us. It's not wrong to have those things, but one of the things we have to ask ourselves, is it too much? Is it in excess? Could I be using these things to give to others? Is it weighing me down unnecessarily? Or it may be, let's take, for example, if you live in a large house, it may be that God's not calling you to sell that house, but how you're able to reorder that and how you're able to use that house for God's glory and having people in and being able to exercise hospitality. So it's not necessarily condemning having those things, but how we view those things and their significance in our lives.
Yeah, that really provides us a lot of freedom in knowing
Absolutely.
that we've been called to serve people. And a big part of that encouragement of being called is knowing that Jesus has already defeated Satan, and that enables us to live out our calling. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts a little more on how Jesus defeating Satan enables us to go out and live our life as mission, as our calling, with our homes, with the things that God's given us.
Yeah, Jesus says in there within that passage that he saw Satan fall like lightning from the sky, and as we looked at yesterday, there are a few things that can mean, and all of them are certainly true and applicable. But for your question is what that means is that he's referring to the fact that Satan has already met his demise through the ushering into the kingdom with Christ's earthly ministry here on earth. That Satan's doom has been sealed. And because Satan's doom has been sealed, we're basically fighting a winning battle. We're fighting a winning war. So when we go and engage with people, engage in people in our neighborhoods and our community, we can go with the bold confidence that Jesus has already done what is necessary for us to win, for him to work all things together for good for those who love him, that are called according to his purpose. And this morning we're reading the book on the heart of evangelism by Jerome Bars, and he's talking about that in terms of evangelism, is how when you go and you engage with someone, you're engaging someone that's not coming out of a void. That there are several years of life that they have already lived. And not only that, but if we understand the gospel, that someone, if they are in Christ, they've been chosen in Christ before the very foundation of the world. So even before the foundation of the world, God has been at work in that person's life and writing their story. And so often when we come and we engage people in the gospel, there are things that are going on. There are life events. There are successes. There are disappointments. There are deaths. There are failures. There are other people that have been speaking God's truth in their lives, oftentimes sowing that seed, where we come along just at the right time as God's mouthpiece to speak truth into their lives, and hopefully that God would see fit to use us to see them coming into the kingdom.
Yeah, and that it's also encouraging to know that what we said last week is that God always provides everything that he requires. And towards the end, he kind of encourages disciples with knowing that their name has been written in heaven. And so my question I'd like to hear your thoughts on is, how is having our name written in heaven help us deal with the success and failures we have in life?
Yeah, I remember saying specifically yesterday that that's so important is that we have our name written in heaven because of what Christ has already done. That we haven't written our name in heaven, but He has, and it's there, and it can't be taken away. And as we walk this life, there are going to be successes and failures. That's just part of living in a fallen world, and because we experience successes doesn't mean that Christ loves us anymore, and because we experience failures, it doesn't mean that He loves us any less. So when we do experience successes and whatever shape and size that they may come, we need to realize that we are not accepted on the basis of our successes. We're not going to go to heaven one day and God's going to say, you shared the gospel with this many people, or you did this, or you didn't do that. We are there because He's written our name. It's not on the basis of anything that we have done. And on the flip side of that, it's a good reminder when we experience failures, when our parenting doesn't go the way we would like, or our marriages don't go the way they would like, or we experience failures at work or failures in other relationships. It also brings us up and doesn't allow us to get too far down on ourselves, and reminding us that Christ's love and that our fact that our name is written in heaven is what matters, and that is eternal and it can't be taken away.
Well, Jamie, we thank you for letting the Spirit use you yesterday for the word on Luke 10. And so we thank you for supporting us here in person on Worship on Sundays, or if you're watching at home, again, it's a joy for us to get to serve everyone at Cobb Apart. Thank you.
Thank you.